A name has surfaced in your mind 2 or 3 times this week, quietly, at strange moments, and you have told yourself it was nothing. Chosen one, this is not the first attempt to reach you. It is the loudest one, because the quieter ones already happened, and you moved past them without noticing what they were. A thought that would not leave. A conversation that circled back to the same subject twice. A restlessness at exactly 3 in the morning that had no obvious cause attached to it. I need 15 focused minutes from you right now, not because God is furious with you the way you fear a parent might be, but because a gentle knock ignored long enough eventually has to become a louder one, and He would rather this be the loud one than let circumstances become the ones that finally get your attention. In the next few minutes, you are going to recognize the exact pattern this has followed in your own life this week. You are going to feel the difference between fear-based urgency and love-based urgency, because they are not the same thing, even though they can feel identical in your chest. And you are going to walk away knowing exactly how to respond the next time a quiet knock comes, instead of waiting for it to get loud again. Because you are not the only one being called right now. And what happens in the next 15 minutes matters more than you currently think it does. Let me tell you what anger actually means here, because it is not what you have been taught to fear. When a title says, "Do not anger him by ignoring," that is not describing a God-keeping score, waiting to punish you for missing a memo. It is describing something closer to what a parent feels watching their child walk toward traffic while distracted by their phone, calling their name once, twice, a third time. Each call rising in volume, not out of cruelty, but out of how much is actually at stake in that moment. That rising volume is what you have been feeling this week, and mistaking for random static in your own mind. It is not static. It is a voice choosing to get louder specifically because the softer version of itself was not landing, and love does not go quiet just because it was ignored the first few times. Think back honestly. Was there a name that kept appearing? In conversation, in a message, in a memory that would not settle down? Was there a specific moment, maybe in the shower, maybe driving, where a thought arrived that felt heavier than your other thoughts, more insistent, harder to shake off than ordinary worry usually is? Was there a scripture, a lyric, or a sentence from a stranger that you have heard now 3 separate times in 3 separate settings this month alone? That is not coincidence stacking on coincidence. That is one voice trying several doors, because one of them has to be the one you finally open. Say this quietly to yourself, even without moving your lips. I am willing to stop and listen. Type, I hear this. If you can already identify the specific thing that has been surfacing for you this week, because naming it, even silently to yourself right now, is the first door actually opening. I want to say clearly what this 15 minutes is not. It is not a guilt trip about your prayer life. It is not a scare tactic to make you feel behind. It is simply this. Something is trying to reach you. It has already tried the gentle way, and gentleness deserves a real answer before it has to escalate any further than it already has. There is a story about a boy asleep in a temple who was called by name 3 separate times in one night, and 3 times he ran to the wrong door, certain it was the old priest calling him, because he had never once considered that the voice speaking to him directly could be the one voice he had grown up hearing about, but never expected to hear from personally. But before we walk through what happened on the 4th call, I need you to understand exactly why the first 3 calls in your own life so often go unrecognized. Here is why the first calls almost always go unrecognized, and it has nothing to do with a lack of faith. When something speaks to you gently, your mind automatically searches for the most familiar, most rational explanation available first. A recurring thought becomes anxiety. A recurring name becomes coincidence. A restless night becomes poor sleep hygiene. You are not wrong to look for natural explanations. You are simply trained, like all of us, to check the ordinary shelf before the sacred one. And most of the time, You stop looking the moment the ordinary shelf offers anything plausible at all. Notice that in your own body right now. If there is a slight tightening, a small recognition rising, that is not discomfort. That is the sacred shelf finally being checked. We are going to name what has been happening, because a pattern without a name keeps repeating in the dark. We call this the third knock. The first knock is nearly silent, easy to explain away. The second knock is slightly louder, harder to dismiss but still deniable. By the third knock, whatever is trying to reach you has stopped being subtle, not because it grew impatient, but because subtlety already had its chance and was not received. Most people who feel like life keeps escalating a message are not being punished for missing the first two knocks. They are simply now hearing the third one, which was always going to come eventually if the first two went unanswered. The exact same way a smoke alarm gets louder the longer smoke keeps filling a room, not because the alarm is angry, but because the danger has not been addressed yet. The alarm is not the enemy in that room. The fire is. The alarm is doing exactly what it was built to do. I told you about a boy asleep in a temple who was called by name 3 times in one night. Here is the rest of it. Twice he ran to an old priest named Eli, certain it was him calling, and twice Eli sent him back to bed, confused himself. It was only on the third call, when Eli finally realized what was actually happening, that he told the boy exactly what to say the next time the voice came. Speak, for your servant is listening. Here is the part most retellings skip. The boy was not being tested for spiritual maturity he did not have yet. He was young, inexperienced, completely unfamiliar with what the voice of God even sounded like, because he had genuinely never heard it directly before that night. His confusion was not failure. It was simply the natural result of never having been taught what to listen for. You are not late to this either. You are not spiritually behind because you did not recognize the first or second knock for what it was. Nobody is born knowing what a divine prompting feels like versus ordinary thought. That is learned, the same way any voice becomes recognizable only through repeated hearing. Type "I recognize this" if you can now see the exact moments this week that were your own first and second knock, because seeing it clearly is the entire shift this teaching exists to create in you. Here is the deeper mechanism underneath why knocks tend to escalate, specifically for chosen ones rather than everyone equally. The more significant the assignment waiting on the other side of a conversation, the more layers of noise tend to surround the invitation to have it, not because God is being difficult, but because whatever opposes your calling benefits enormously from you staying confused about whose voice you are actually hearing. This is your reframe. What felt like an increasingly loud, almost overwhelming week was never random pressure building for no reason. It was an invitation being repeated with rising clarity, because what is on the other side of you finally answering is significant enough to be worth the repetition. The volume was never the point. The invitation always was. I want to be honest about something most messages like this skip past. Naming this pattern today does not mean you will instantly recognize every future knock perfectly. You are going to leave this video, go back into a busy week, and there is a real chance the fourth or fifth knock, whatever form it takes, will still catch you slightly off guard. That is not failure. Discernment is a muscle built over years, not minutes. And every time you catch it, even a little sooner than last time, that counts as real growth. Type "I am learning" if you can admit you have missed knocks before today, because admitting that is not weakness. It is the exact honesty this kind of listening requires to actually work. Now I want to hold something in front of you and ask you to sit with it a moment before we continue, because I am not going to explain it fully yet. Several years ago, researchers who had nothing to do with faith discovered something about why some people seem to hear these promptings clearly and quickly, while others, often people praying just as hard, feel like they are straining through static that never quite clears. A small group, studying how the two halves of the brain communicate, found something specific about a kind of internal noise that makes discernment genuinely harder for certain people, regardless of how sincere their faith actually is. It is not a spiritual deficiency. It is something structural, something adjustable, and I will come back to exactly what that is shortly, because I think it explains more about why you have missed knocks before today than you currently realize. Let us address the objection sitting in the back of your mind right now. You are thinking, but what if I am just anxious? What if this is not actually a divine prompting at all? Just my own overactive mind looking for meaning in coincidence? That is a fair, healthy question, and dismissing it would be dishonest of me. Here is a simple distinction. Anxiety tends to spiral, vague, restless, without a clear direction, often about many things at once. A genuine knock tends to be specific, repetitive around one particular theme or name, and strangely calm underneath the urgency, even when it feels intense. If what you have been noticing keeps circling back to one specific thing rather than everything at once, that specificity itself is worth paying attention to. And to the part of you thinking, but I do not deserve this kind of personal attention, I am not that important, I want to gently say this. Every chosen one thinks that at first. Importance was never the qualification. Willingness to listen was. Close your eyes for a moment while still listening. Picture the exact thing that has been surfacing for you this week, whatever name, thought, or feeling it was. Do not analyze it yet. Just let yourself look directly at it instead of glancing away the way you have been doing. Notice that looking directly at it does not hurt the way avoiding it has been quietly hurting. Here is a small practice you can start today, even before we go any further. When something surfaces for the second time, a name, a thought, a scripture, pause for 10 seconds instead of dismissing it immediately. Just 10 seconds of actually asking, is this worth paying attention to? That single pause is often the entire difference between hearing a second knock and needing a third one. Think about Samuel again for a moment. He was not punished for running to Eli twice by mistake. He simply had not yet been taught what to listen for. The moment someone finally told him what to say, "Speak, for your servant is listening," the fourth call came, and he was ready for it immediately. Instruction, not shame, was the missing piece the entire time. But here is what most messages like this never say. Recognizing the pattern is real progress, and it will genuinely change how you respond going forward. But without one more piece, the piece we are coming to very soon, recognizing a knock and actually knowing what to do once you answer the door, are two very different things, and that gap is exactly where most people stall out after teachings like this one end. So let me lay out the plain version of everything so far. No metaphor, just the truth of it flat in front of you. Here is why. Knocks escalate in volume the longer they go unrecognized, not out of anger, but because whatever needs your attention has not been received yet, and repetition is simply love, refusing to give up on reaching you. Here is what it costs you. Every unrecognized knock delays the very thing waiting on the other side of your response, and leaves you exhausted from a pressure you could not name or understand yet. Here is who this is for. Anyone who has felt life getting louder around one specific theme lately without knowing exactly why. That is who you have been. That is not who you have to keep being. This is not a message meant to make you feel behind. It is meant to make the next knock, whenever it comes, much easier to recognize the very first time. The internal static I mentioned earlier, the reason some people hear promptings clearly, while others feel like they are straining through noise, comes down to something researchers call whole brain synchronization. Your brain has two halves, and in most adults, years of stress and distraction have left those halves communicating poorly with each other. One handles logic, the other handles intuition. The quiet, inner knowing faith calls discernment. When the two are not talking properly, A genuine prompting and ordinary anxious noise can start to feel almost identical, which is exactly the confusion you described feeling earlier. A neurologist in New York named Dr. Daniel Barone spent years studying this exact gap after learning of Nobel Prize research into how the two hemispheres divide their work. What he built from it is a simple 8-minute audio sequence called the genius switch, a way to gently resynchronize both halves using nothing but sound through headphones, eyes closed, nothing to perform. It works quietly beneath your awareness while you rest and listen. This is not a replacement for prayer or scripture. It is closer to clearing static off a phone line so the voice you have already been straining to hear can finally come through clean, plain, and unmistakable rather than half-heard through interference. I want to be honest, because that matters more than sounding polished. This is not for everyone. It is for the one who genuinely wants to hear clearly and has felt the frustration of static getting in the way more often than not. If that is not you, this particular tool is simply not necessary for your path. The Genius Switch is not sold in stores or on any streaming platform, only through the link below and in the pinned comment, delivered by email the moment you decide. Colleagues of Dr. Barone said it should be priced near $500 given the research behind it. It is not. It sits at $39 today, backed by a full money-back guarantee with no limit on how long you may try it, plus 4 bonuses at no extra cost. 18,456 people have already used this, not because they lacked faith, but because faith and clarity were never meant to compete with each other. The mechanism is clear now. The door is visible. What remains is simply this. Now that you know, what do you do with it? Type, "I receive this." If something in you is ready to stop straining through static and instead hear clearly what has been waiting to reach you. Here is the heaviest thing I have to tell you today, saved until now on purpose. The reason this week has felt so loud is not because something is wrong with you. It is because you were never meant to figure this out entirely alone, straining through every knock by yourself. You were meant to be part of something the title of this very message already named. Chosen ones, plural. A whole company of people being called into the same posture of listening at the very same time you are. Let me show you something before we close. A picture I want you to stand inside for a moment rather than just hear. See yourself tomorrow morning. The static that has been humming under this entire week has quieted. A thought surfaces, maybe the same name, maybe something new, and this time you recognize it immediately for what it is, instead of dismissing it 3 times first. You pause, just for 10 seconds, and something in you settles rather than spirals. That is not a small shift. That is the entire skill this 15 minutes was meant to build in you. That is the version of you being formed right now. Not someone constantly bracing for another loud knock. Someone who finally recognizes the quiet ones too, and answers before it ever needs to escalate again. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life, so stay with me a moment longer. Somewhere very soon, maybe even today, a small prompting is going to surface again. When it does, remember this. You do not need it to be loud for it to be real. You can pause for 10 seconds, look directly at it instead of glancing away, and trust that the willingness to look is already most of the answer required. I am grateful for you staying through this, for giving these 15 minutes when so many things could have pulled your attention elsewhere instead. Not every message finds the person ready to receive it, and today, this one found you, alongside every other chosen one hearing this at this exact same moment. Something in you recognized itself in almost every part of this, and that recognition did not happen by accident. Picture the static that has been sitting underneath this entire week. Picture it now clearing, the way a radio signal sharpens the moment you finally find the right frequency, going from noise to a voice you can actually understand. I release the fear that I have already missed my chance by not hearing sooner. I release the shame of the knocks I did not recognize before today. I release the exhaustion of straining to hear through static alone. I release the belief that I have to do this without anyone else beside me. You are not behind. You are being taught what to listen for, the same way every chosen one before you eventually was. You are not alone in this room tonight. There is a whole company of others being called at this exact same hour, in different homes, different cities, different time zones, all being reached by the same voice at once. None of you required to figure this out in isolation. I am learning to recognize the first knock, not just the third. I am part of a people being spoken to right now, not a single person straining alone. I am ready to say, "Speak, for your servant is listening." The next time a knock comes, type, "I am listening," if you receive that over your life right now, and let it settle past your mind into the place where the static used to sit. If this reached something true in you today, gently press whatever button lets you carry this forward, not for me, but so it reaches someone else who has been hearing knocks they could not explain and needed permission to actually stop and listen. Let it reach one more person who thought the noise in their life this week meant something was wrong, when it actually meant something was finally trying to be right. And before you go, think of someone specific, someone who has mentioned feeling unusually restless lately, someone who has said something is off without being able to say exactly what. Maybe someone who has texted you at strange hours this week without knowing why. Send this to them without an explanation attached, without a comment saying "this made me think of you." Just send it quietly and let them find inside it whatever they came here to find, the same way you just did. If joining a wider company of chosen ones, learning to recognize these knocks together feels right to your spirit, that space exists here for you as well. A place for the ones who are done straining through static alone. If what was described earlier resonates with your spirit, the link remains in the description and the pinned comment, waiting for you whenever you are ready. And so it is.